And we're live, streaming from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Thank you for joining our unique podcast community, where we explore the issues and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Thank you for helping us get to 1,300 subscribers. We've been growing steadily, and we're going towards our 2,500 mark. So keep helping us. Smash that bell icon and hit the subscribe button to find more information out about our upcoming guests and topics. To see our over 135 past episodes, go to our website at www.jasontram.net. We have artists who are classical stars. We've got artists of every genre, from contemporary to Christian to you name it. We have it on this show. And this is a dialogue between professional musicians and the audience who loves their music. So thank you for joining us. We have a wonderful show for you today. We have Mr. Erik Smallwood, who is a singer, songwriter, country singer, songwriter, producer, and worship leader. He sounds infectious, some blues, some pop, and a little bit of Muscle Shoals flavor. So he is actually from Muscle Shoals area in Alabama, and certainly a music haven. It's a nationally renowned place for great music. He's a North Carolina-based 10-year career at his resume that includes sharing the stage with national acts, festivals, award nominations, film contributions, and the respect of his peers, as well as performing on many big and small stages within the Christian market. So we're delighted that Erik can join us. Welcome, Erik.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
How are things in Alabama today?
Warm. Not too warm. It's actually a really, really beautiful day here. It's been a great day. A Sunday for me is a pretty busy day. So, but it's been relaxing. It's been good. My mother-in-law's in town. Hey, Miss Katie. She's awesome.
Shout out to the
my
mother-in-law.
mom and dad. Yes. I'm winning brownie points with that probably. My mom and dad came up for a little bit to have lunch with me and my wife and my mother-in-law and my wife's daughter, Sadie. So it was a really, really great, relaxing, beautiful day here, and I can't be more blessed than I feel today. It's awesome.
Now you're a worship leader. What does a typical Sunday look like for you?
Typical Sunday. Typical Sunday is I wake up and I get to church about 7:30 in the morning. I just kind of like cross all my T's, dot all my I's, make sure the computers are working. And that's crazy, in the 90s, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I led worship. It was like you make sure the projector's ready to, the what is those clear projection? I'm talking about what are the slide projectors?
Sure.
Yeah, you just make get your guitars tuned and the monitors are working on stage. But now there's so many computers involved, so I make sure all the computers are ready. The lower thirds for our streaming online, our streaming computer. Cut the sound on, get the sound ready, get my click tracks and my cues and my loops ready, and I just make sure that everything is prepared, and I try to prepare. I prepare very well during the week, but Sunday is just. I got to go through it one more time in the morning and before the band gets here and make sure that everything's working. There are no hiccups. Got to make sure our Wi-Fi and our internet's working. If that's not working, half of our service doesn't work. So,
yeah, boy, oh boy.
You got to rely on internet providers, right? So,
I'm a conductor and a professor, and I do music ministry too. And boy, the setup is 90% of it, making sure everything's organized, ready to go. The music's in order before people see you only on the stage. They see you performing. That's the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much that goes into it. And the average person or the average attender won't ever really know what all goes into it, but a lot goes into it, and but I'm thankful for it. It's great. It gives me more to do. I like to feel like I'm a pretty techie guy, so I like the tech aspect of it. I think the hardest thing on a Sunday is being able to focus actually on the worship aspect of it. When you're handling all the tech and you're handling the being the band leader as well, sometimes it's just hard to enter in, and that's probably the biggest struggle for the modern worship leader today. I think, I would think I'm not the only one struggling with that as a worship leader. If you're handling the majority, especially for a small church, if you work at a bigger church, you have lots of volunteers and lots of people on your staff who probably handle a lot of aspects, so you can focus more on worship. But when you're in a small church like this, I'm doing the job of three or four people. And then I have volunteers. I have great volunteers. Don't get me wrong. Great people at this church who help serve on the tech teams, the cameras, operators, the sound, the lyrics, and that kind of stuff. But they come in and do it on Sundays. I get it all ready for them to do it. So something falls apart. I'm the leader. They look to me, and I'm okay with that. But sometimes it's just a real struggle actually entering in and leading, because while I'm leading worship and trying to engage with people to come into the presence of God, I'm also having to fight off these thoughts of are they going to hit this chord right? Am I going to hit that note right? Are the lyrics going to come in quick enough? Is the internet working? Is the stream working right? Can people hear us good online? Like a lot of those thoughts, you're battling in your head. So I think it's probably one of the biggest struggles of the modern worship leader today.
So many ways that things can go wrong with technology, isn't it? It's great when it works and it's perfect, but when there's a challenge, it can really be interesting.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. You can be so prepared, so over prepared during the week, and everything works fine. I run through rehearsals. I run through do run throughs, make sure everything's working properly, everything's working fine. So Saturday's my Sabbath. I take my Saturday and I do what I want to do. I rest. I enjoy it. Sunday morning I come in, nothing works. I'm like, okay, this is crazy. My buddy John said when the devil fell from heaven, he fell into a sound booth. So it's that's what I really feel like. He likes to attack us through that technology. So I just try to make sure that I keep the joy. And I probably would. There have been moments in the past where I've probably been very frustrated, and people could tell. But I'm getting better as I get older to just laugh things off and go, you know what? If you're over prepared and you do what you're supposed to do, and things fall apart, you can't let that rest on your shoulders. You just have to go, you know what? I'm just going to worship God. You
another
still move.
Swing.
Your
Keep it going.
Yeah, your presence still moves without me. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about me. It's if the presence of God is there, it's going to move. He's going to move. He's going to do what he wants to do, regardless of computer technology, regardless of the stream online, regardless of if I forget lyrics or people forget chords or whatever the case may be. We still have to trust that his spirit will do what it's going to do. You know what I mean? And trust him. So.
Amen. That's very important. So did you always know you wanted to be a musician?
Man, from a very young age, my mom said I would run around with anything I could find, like little hairbrushes or anything I could. And I would be singing or try to be singing or whatever. My mom's, always thought I had a great voice. You've been able to sing really good since you were young, Eric, but I really didn't come into my own singing voice until I was probably 19, 20 years old. And that's when I started probably getting a little better. Excuse me. And then into my early 20s, moving to North Carolina, finding my own voice there and meeting a lot of singers and seeing what kind of professionality was up there. It really makes you raise your standard. You know what I mean? Growing up in Alabama, I was just always known as that boy from the Shoals, that kid, that clown from the Shoals. Like, I never really was looked at as a musician here, really. You know what I mean? But when I moved to North Carolina,
what was it like growing up in Muscle Shoals? I mean, what with such a legendary music scene?
It was great. I really honestly didn't realize the impact of Muscle Shoals until I moved away from Muscle Shoals, because I just grew up here my whole life. My family wasn't really musical. My best friend, Justin Holder, great drummer. He's actually a fame session drummer now, but growing up with him, I was in 7th grade, and we became best friends and started a band together. But his dad, Joey Holder, was a really, really pretty famous worship leader. He wrote songs like Unto the King and Blessed Jesus, and I mean, Promise Keeper hits. If you're familiar with the Promise Keeper movement, he wrote some of those songs, but he also introduced me to a guy named Will McFarlane, and Will McFarlane played with Bonnie Raitt, Jackson. I mean, a great guitarist. Played with Bonnie Raitt, Jackson Brown, the Pointer Sisters, Etta James. I mean, Will McFarlane is when you say made to play guitar, this guy was created to play guitar. And so Justin, grew up around him. Will was like Justin's second dad. So Justin started playing drums for Will when he was like 13 or 14 years old. You know what I mean? And I've been very, very blessed to grow up around some pretty amazing musicians. So it's been really cool. Yeah.
So you absorbed all that. Now, what took you to North Carolina?
Actually, Justin, he moved to North Carolina a few years before I did with the McFarlane family to just kind of play in bands and play with Will, keep touring with Will and that kind of stuff. And just didn't have anything going on in my life in 2006. I was struggling with jobs. I was struggling to find what I wanted to do with my life. I knew that music was ingrained in me. And he just said, man, move to North Carolina. He's like, if you don't like it, you can always move back home. He's like, he said, but the music scene here is great. So I ended up moving to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2006 and started playing and gigging and honing in my craft. And, and I worked for churches here and there and led worship for different churches, but would get out and play and meet other musicians and connect and network and started making a name for myself. And then, but in 2010 is when I really just kind of stepped away from the church for a little bit and said, I'm going to chase my dreams. And that's when I started really writing some songs that started getting attention and winning awards and winning different songwriting competitions and playing some really big festivals. And so God really started to open some doors for me when I was chasing that dream. But he really, during that time, helped me hone in my craft and help develop my voice and help me develop myself as a musician. And so it's North Carolina was an awesome journey. Met a lot of amazing people, and a lot of those people are really I'm still close to. I keep in contact with, network with. We play music together. Got some guys there that still record on some of my music that I write now. I'll record tracks and send them tracks. They'll record in North Carolina and send me the tracks back. I dump them in. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool technology these days, really.
Amazing. So you did a lot of traveling and touring and concertizing, and was it mostly country music, or was it a mixture of your country and worship leader?
Right. Well, so after 2010 through 2016, it was mostly I played a lot of cover gigs as well. So I was mixing up genres, doing anything from the Eagles to Zach Brown, Tom Petty to Justin Timberlake. I would even rap. So I took some of that, that's what I kind of, like, a lot of people knew me for. Hey, do that rap stuff you do some rap. So I would, throw in, I would do Last Dance with Mary Jane by Tom Petty and throw in Drop It Like It's Hot by Snoop Dogg.
Fun.
That kind of stuff. And people kind of liked that stuff. It was just different. Nobody was really doing it. A lot of people said that I would play a live acoustic music like DJs would DJ. I would weave in and out of songs and that kind of thing. So that was kind of my forte, that I kind of picked up a really great crowd, a group of fans that really followed me around and kind of came and watched me play all over the place. But I played all over the Southeast, up the East Coast, played, Milwaukee, and went to Cincinnati a couple times, Columbus. We played Pittsburgh some, but mostly we would stay in the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. Then we'd play in Georgia, and played all over the place, man. I'm really blessed to get to do what I've gotten to do. But they were mostly like I said, cover gigs, and I would throw originals in. But I did get to play a lot of original shows as well, opening for some really great artists. Gary Jules, I don't know if you're familiar with his Tears for Fears cover. Mad World, that he did
Sure.
that at the end of Donnie Darko. So I got to open for him, and that was really a really great thing. But that was probably in front of about 200-300 people at the Poorhouse Music Hall in Raleigh, North Carolina. But then I got to open for Joe Diffie in front of 20,000 people at the Fayetteville Dogwood Festival. So it's really just fun stuff, man. Fun stuff. You know, a lot of, you know, like I'm just feel so blessed and honored to get to do some of the stuff I've gotten to do.
And you have a very active performing career. Your music can be heard on all the streaming services. Like, what's it like to have the global reach that the today's social media and streaming platforms offers an independent artist?
Man, it's pretty amazing when you get a message from someone from like Australia, and they're like, man, we found your song on Spotify. We love it. We've been playing your music. We can't wait till you put out more music. I mean, it's honoring. It's honoring. You know, I would have never dreamed, you know, as a kid in the 90s, you know, or just graduating high school in 2001, that at 37 years old, I would be like, you know, like responding to people in Canada because they heard my songs on Pandora, you know what I mean? Or, you know, responding to people in Ireland because they heard my song on, you know, some, you know, streaming, you know, some streaming site on the internet somewhere, or if they found my songs on Amazon Music or Apple Music or wherever. So it's pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy time, really. The only downfall is with the technology that's out today is you have to wade through so much bad stuff before you get to the good stuff, because
it is a smorgasbord
so easy to put out there.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
People in the elementary school reporting there, you know, it's just so much content. Yeah, it's true.
There's so much. It's so easy to put music on the internet these days that it's really difficult to find. So that's why you just gotta. I think that's why nothing beats a little elbow grease. You know, you put your wheels to the pavement and you go, like, and you get out and play gigs and then word of mouth. And that's what I had a lot of great people spread my name in the Carolinas for a few years. It was pretty cool.
Now, what drew you back to worship leadering after having great success and really your country music career is growing and expanding? What brought you back to worship music?
Well, I actually, in 2006, hadn't been at church in a long time, but in 2006, decided that it was time to go. I was invited to an Easter service at this church called Manna Church in Fayetteville, North Carolina, huge church. They were putting on this huge Easter production at the Crown Coliseum in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And so I ended up going. I just felt the presence of God, man. I just felt God's calling on my life. I felt like he's, you know, I looked up there and saw people leading worship and saw people worshiping, and I just missed it. I missed it, and I missed being a part of it. But then I just felt that tugging of the Holy Spirit that said, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what I called you to do. This is what I've been preparing you to do. These few years you've been chasing your country music dreams. I've been preparing you. I've been getting you ready to have your own voice, to have your own style, to do what you're called to do with your own voice. And so, I mean, that following Monday after Easter 2006, that following Monday, I just was praying, and I felt prompted to fill out my resume and get my resume together, which I hadn't did that in years. And so I was like, what am I going to put on a resume, you know? But just started filling it out. My sister, Michelle, she's got her master's in elementary education, and so she's a real brainy girl, and sent my resume to her, and she looked it over and she helped me put one together and helped me tweak it a little bit. Ended up got down the reference parts on my resume, and I was like, who am I going to put as a reference? Who would be a reference for me at this point in my life? And I thought about my buddy John David Crow, who was a guy that I was in a band with when I was 15, 16, 17 years old. He's about 5 years older than me. We were in a band together, and we toured a lot and played a lot, opened for Third Day and Jennifer Knapp and Plus One and Eli and my friend Stephanie, and just tons of different Christian bands in the, you know, like the late 90s. And called him and said, hey man, can I put you as a reference on my resume? And he goes, whoa. He goes, a resume? He said, is your music career not going well? And I said, no, my music career is going awesome. It's actually going really well. I said, I just feel called to get back into worship leading. I feel called to community. I feel like I need to start walking in my calling again, and that's worship. And he said, well, the church I work for, Friendship in Athens, Alabama, we're hiring and we want you. And I was like, it was that quick. It was that quick. And
Wow.
2 weeks later, they flew me out to this little campus called Friendship North in Elkmont, Alabama, little country church. And I led worship for them that weekend. They offered me the job. 2 weeks later, I moved my life. I moved everything, my life up from North Carolina and moved back to Alabama, which my mom and dad live in Florence, Alabama, the Shoals area, which is an hour from here. And so I've been praying for years that God would open a door for me to move back closer to my mom and dad, because I'd only see them like once or twice a year since 2006.
Sometimes when
And
it's meant to
so,
be, you set that
yeah,
path out, then God just takes you down that path, right? You know what you're doing, what
right,
you're supposed to
right,
be doing.
right. And God opens a door no man can shut. You know what I mean? And it's just he's really opened some great doors for me here. And he's done so much in my life here the last 5 years. It's been incredible. There have been some really, really, really hard roads I've had to walk in since I've been here, but there have been some really, really amazing mountaintop victories that I wouldn't change for anything. I wouldn't trade for anything.
So how does the lifestyle of a traveling country artist turned worship leader? How big of a culture shift is that?
It was it really wasn't a huge culture shock for me because I grew up in the church. So I grew up in the church. My mom and dad are I mean, they're the real deal. When I say they're Bible walking Christians, they're the real deal. Like they don't just live their life by a bunch of rules and regulations in a book, but they live their life based on a relationship with the grace and mercy of Jesus. You know what I mean? Like they love hard. They are non-judgmental people. I mean, they're just the real deal. That's all I can say. And so I grew up in that church. I grew up in a charismatic little Pentecostal church, full gospel church in Alabama growing up. And so it's not too huge of a culture shock for me, just because I've been here. I know what the differences are. But the thing I can say about my church is real. Like, it's full of real people. Like, we have anywhere from people who wear suit and ties on Sundays to bikers who come in their leather. You know what I mean? So it's really cool. They appreciate that I go out still, and I still play in different restaurants and bar type settings, and still do some cover music here and there to make a little extra money on the side. I mean, our lead pastor of Friendship, not my campus pastor. My campus pastor is Steve Dorning. He's just been like a father to me since I've been here. But our lead pastor over all of our campuses, Tony Johnson, he like encourages me to get out. He's like, go out and play, man. Be seen in the community. Go play. He's like, and let me know when you're playing. I'll promote you. I'll send out a church email and let the people know where they can come see you play. So they've been really supportive of me, and it's been really cool. They're really cool.
What an incredible turnaround! Do you still find time to do singer songwriter in the country genre?
Yeah, I actually do. I'm actually playing the Muscle Shoals Songwriters Festival in November.
Awesome.
I got asked to come play the Muscle Shoals Songwriters Festival in November, and that's going to be really cool. I get to do things like this. You found me on Reverb Nation and offered me a spot to do this, so this is really cool. Yeah, so I get here and there. I get to play some, and I'm not playing as much because I really want to focus more of my energy on being a worship leader and being great for my church. I also ride special needs buses for Limestone County. So every morning I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I go jump on a school bus and ride with special needs students. And in the afternoons I jump back on the route and we pick them up for school. And
Wow.
that helps my wife and I get really great insurance, but it's also another great ministry in itself. I get to minister, and you know, I don't get to really talk about Jesus a whole lot because you got to keep, you know, faith out of that. But I get to encourage these kids, you know, get to love on them and get to tell them how important they are and just encourage them every day. So,
Well, you get
yeah,
to show your faith,
it's
but a different
great.
way, right? By living your faith, by
Absolutely.
being out in the community and doing something really helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, the Bible says they'll know we're Christians by our love, and I think it was uh, I can't remember exactly who said it. I don't want to butcher any names, but I have heard, you know, go out into the world and preach the gospel, and when necessary, use words. You know, and I think that's the whole point. Like, you know, us as Christians, believers, a lot we want to, you know, talk, but our talk doesn't match our walk, and I think if you can just get out and love people and walk in a way that represents Christ, that represents love, that represents grace, represents mercy, I think you can do a lot more changing in your world and transforming in your world than just by preaching a bunch of words.
So, what is music's role in preaching the word? And in your opinion, how does music say what words sometimes can't?
Well, I know that in you know, even when I was playing the bar scene more and chasing my country music dreams, I played in a lot of places. Maybe I shouldn't have been. I don't know. You know, who knows? But I think a lot of people would argue I shouldn't have been there. But me, I know that I've gotten to um, playing a cover gig in a bar has opened the doors for me to have conversations with people that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to sit down and have conversations with. You know, you know, people think, you know, you're at a bar, you're just there to party, but there are people there that are hurting. There are people there that are having a drink because they're having a tough week. They're having a tough month. They're having a tough year. And you get to sit down with people. And being a musician in the bar, people see you, people recognize you. So all of a sudden, people want to talk to you, and you have an opportunity to just love on people. So I think music opens doors, especially me being the musician. It gets to open doors for me to meet different kinds of people and to encourage people that normally wouldn't have ever gotten a chance to talk to, or for them to open their heart to hear me. You know what I mean? So music, man, it transcends all people and all ages, and it just opens doors. I love that. God uses music in such powerful ways.
Sometimes we don't even know until after it happens. And you never know what your songs can inspire people to do. What's it like when someone reaches out to you from, you know, anywhere in the world and says that one of your songs touched them?
Oh my gosh. You know, I'm honored. I mean, first of all, I'm honored because God doesn't have to use me this way, you know, and I really believe that all my gifts are from God. You know what I mean? I believe that He could have chosen anybody in the world to write the songs that I've written. But He chose me because He loves me, and He wants good things for me. You know, He's the giver of all good gifts. And, so when, you know, if my songs speak to somebody, like, you know, like I've had these songs before that I've written that I've been really proud of, but, you know, didn't ever seem to do anything, you know, didn't ever seem to get picked up by licensing, or didn't win an award, or this, that, and the other. But then I have a random message from someone that said that song really spoke to me. I was having a tough time, or it reminded me of an old love that, you know, and helped me reach back out to them, or, you know, just random things, you know, and right then and there, I feel like, God, that's the purpose you have with the song. You know, that's the purpose. You know, and sometimes us musicians, we judge our songs based on notoriety, based on how many hits they get, based on how many they sell, based on how many awards they win. But really, it's about how many lives they impact. And if I write one song and I get one message from someone that says they were impacted by it, like, that's a win, right? That's a win. if you impact one life, the word of God says that when one soul comes to the Lord, or comes back to the Lord, all the angels in heaven rejoice. And I think that should show, that's an example of how we as people should be, when the things that we create touch people. If it touches just one, we should rejoice about that. You know, if it ministers to one or encourages one, we should rejoice about that. And so it took me a while to get there, and I still deal with it. I'm not perfect. I still deal with, man, I wish my songs would get more hits. I wish they would, sell more. But, and then, those cool little inbox messages come along, those little direct messages come along, or emails come along that say, hey, I really love your music. It's really rocking. Even if it's rocking, even if they love it, even if they give me just a simple compliment about it, I know that it touched them in a way, because they wouldn't ever had to write and say anything about it at all. You know what I mean? So it's honoring. That's all I got to say.
Well, it's so clear how your faith informs your journey, and that's so powerful. When you write music, do the words come first? Does the chords, the music come first, or is it some combination depending on the song?
Yeah, combination. I think I'm more of a hook guy. I love writing catchy stuff. It just comes out that way. If it's not catchy to me, then I don't feel like it's I don't know. It needs to have that hook for it. And so most of the time for me, I would have to say that I kind of get this melody in my head and these words. Last year I put out a song called Faithful. It's one of the first worship songs, like Christian songs I've put out in years. And I just remember walking through a really, really tough journey last year. And actually in 2019, I started walking through a really, really tough journey in my life. And then 2020, around quarantine, after quarantine, it all came to a head. And it just kind of felt like my world was kind of shifting and changing and turned upside down without any kind of warning. And I kept getting this melody in my head. When I'm faithless, you are faithful. You make this dust into something beautiful. When I'm faithless, you are faithful. And so I just kind of started singing that in my car to myself before I wrote any music. And I was like, I really like this. I think it's gonna be healing for me. I think it's gonna minister to my spirit and my soul. So if it's gonna do that for me, it will do that for somebody else. So I ended up sitting down and just writing the song, and I just released it. It's on iTunes. If anybody's listening or to this right now and wants to pick it up or wants to hear it, you can listen to it for free on my Reverb Nation page. But hopefully it'll minister to you too.
I hope those. Whenever it's an artist puts something that means so much to them, it's really, you're going to find an audience. You just have to get it out there and spread the word.
Right.
And how do indie artists today get heard? What in your journey? How has that this challenge of being an indie artist today?
I bootstraps. I think getting out there and playing is the best way. Word of mouth is the best way to ever be heard. Getting out and just playing as many gigs as you can, playing as many things as you can. There are plenty of platforms. There are plenty of online platforms, but even then and there, you still have to have people spread the word about those platforms that you're on. I say be your biggest advocate. Be your biggest fan. People used to get annoyed with me on social media because I promote my own self so much. And I'm like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And then once you start playing and getting your name out there and you write a song somebody likes, all of a sudden, someone goes, oh, well, I heard your music because of a link I saw you share about yourself. All of a sudden they're sharing it, and then their friends catch on and their friends catch on. like, don't be ashamed of yourself. Like, be proud of yourself. You know, like, you can still be humble and still, you know, do it with poise and do it with humility, and but still promote yourself. I mean, it's no different than having an Etsy store and sharing links to buy your Etsy stuff all the time, you know, or you're into some new like um, quick way to lose weight kind of thing, and you're promoting it. It's no different than being a part of any kind of business, small business, and you're promoting it to get it heard, or to get it seen, you know. So I would just say, don't be ashamed of yourself. Record your stuff, um, get your stuff recorded, learn the ins and outs of the business, buy some good recording gear. You don't have to buy anything fancy, you know. Like, I've got my Behringer XR. You can see it right here, right there. That thing is like 18 channels in and out. I hook it up to a MacBook, and I hook it up to a MacBook and use Logic Pro, and I can record anything live. I can use it as a live rig and record a whole band live and go back and mix and master it later. So that's what I recorded my song Faithful on, that I just put out last
Wow.
year. And I just put out, in the last couple of weeks, I just put out a song called Now I Belong, and it's another kind of faith journey song. And yeah, I would just say, record yourself, put your music out there, and just like let your music take you somewhere.
That's great advice. You know, what I find with I interview a lot of indie artists, rock people, and different genres, and I find that you know, with the traditional record companies, they try to create these plastic artists that they you know, this fake image. But I feel with the indie crowd, they want to know who the artist really is. They want to know, you know, what makes you real.
Yeah, I think the more that you can be transparent with, I think the more transparent you can be with your audience, the more that your music can become relatable to them. You know, I think some people are, you know, transparent for the sake of getting a woe is me type kind of thing, or the shock factor. But I think when you just share your journey, and you're open and honest with people about what you've been through and where you've come from, and the hardships you've been through, I think that really just lets people know you're a real person. You're a human. You struggle just like they struggle, and I think that's when your music really can evolve in their hearts and lives. And all of a sudden they start seeing your music differently, and they see it more as a healing method than they do as a just as a, you know, a means of listening pleasure. You know what I mean? They see it more as a medicine than they do as a pleasure. So I think it's can be used that way.
I'm always fascinated. I'm a university professor as well as a conductor, and I've done a lot of music ministry over the years, and I'm always fascinated by the connection of the sacred and the secular. I see them as flip sides of the same coin, because the same minds that create them, often the greatest composers write for both in history. Like Beethoven wrote sacred works as well as secular works, and so on and so forth down the years. And I find that the two can be incredibly connected. You look at Martin Luther, who would go into the churches and he would bring in tunes from the bar rooms into the church and make them hymns that have
Right.
stuck with us over centuries. And I think that
Yeah.
you know, we try so hard to separate the two, but they're much more closely aligned than people think.
Yeah. I think when Christians, I think people who call themselves believers, Christians, I think when they step out of their box of churchy music and start writing stuff that's a little bit more wider spectrum for the non-believer as well, I think you can broaden your horizons on whose lives you impact. I have some country songs that I know some of the people that listen to me probably would have never given me a chance if all I had was worship music and Christian faith-based songs on my website. But since I have songs about drinking whiskey on there, they listen to those songs and love them and rock out to them, and then end up stumbling onto my faith-driven songs and go, man, this song came out of nowhere, but it was so good. I loved it. like it, so I heard TD Jakes, and I don't know if some of our listeners or watchers know who TD Jakes is. I'm sure they probably do. TD Jakes is he's just a huge minister of the gospel, but he's also written several books, self-help books, different kinds of things. And he was asked one time, or someone said, "What do you think about the people who, talk bad about you, about not, thinking, well, how can he go be on Oprah? Like how can he go be, write these books and stuff?" He goes, "Listen," he said, "if I write non-faith based stuff," he's like, "I can relate to more people that may not believe." He said they end up stumbling onto my faith-based stuff, and God does a work in their life because I was willing to step out of my church box. You know what I mean? And
Gives you
I
that
think
a
that
much
should stuck
much
with me.
broader reach. Certainly, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, Jesus didn't just hang out at
He
the temple
certainly
all the
did
time.
not. No, he certainly did not.
And most of the time he was hanging out at the temple, he was telling them how awful they were. You know what I mean? Like he was
Knocking
talking to
over the tables with the money changers.
yeah,
Yep, yep.
yeah. He hung out with the tax collectors and the prostitutes and the drunkards, and he wanted to love them. He didn't crawl down into the. My pastor spoke on this today. He said laying down your life doesn't mean crawling down in the ditch and suffering and suffering your character or whatever and doing what they do. Laying your life down just sometimes means helping them from a higher ground. Like you reach down and you help them. And I think that's what Jesus did. Like he hung out with them. He didn't participate in the things that they did, but he helped them and loved them and didn't judge them and wanted them to know they were loved and appreciated. And I think that's all people want these days. I'm like I said, I'm a believer, and I am not perfect any means, and that's all I want. I want people just to accept me and love me for who I am and show me grace and mercy. The best way I can get that is by extending grace and forgiveness to others. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I just think God has so much more for us if we step out of our four walls and out of our typical churchy things. Because the Bible says to go out into the world and preach the gospel, right? It doesn't say stay in your four
Stay
walls
in your
and pray they
church
come
and
to you. Yeah,
preaching to the
yeah.
converted, right?
Let's
You
pray
got to
that
get out
God
there.
sends us. Yeah, let's pray that God sends us the multitudes. No, he never said that. He said go out and win the multitudes. Speak to them. Go to where they are, because you know what? It's a great example because God came to where we were. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is like he wants us to go to where they are and God had the biggest example with Jesus. He sent Jesus to where we are. He didn't expect us to come to him. He came to us. So it's pretty clear.
It's a good role model to follow, certainly, for all of us.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
good advice
Yeah.
to everyone to go out there and to spread that word and to bring your art to different places. Rumor has it you're going to play a song for us today.
I might do that. Let's see.
So tell us what you're going to play and what is it about and what does it mean? What are we listening for?
I am actually going to play. I'm going to play a song called "Water in My Hometown." This song is kind of like an homage to my hometown, Muscle Shoals. When I lived in North Carolina, I can't tell you how many times they would say, "Where are you from?" I'd say, "Well, I'm from Muscle Shoals, Alabama," and they look at me and be like, "Oh my gosh!" They're like, "You're from Muscle Shoals?" But like, "Yeah," and they'd be like, "There's something in the water there." They would always say that. Like I would always hear people say, "There's something in the water there," and so I ended up writing a song while I was living in North Carolina called "Water in My Hometown," kind of an homage to my. Kind of like a little bit of a story of my life growing up there, but kind of homage to my hometown a little bit. So this is called "Water in My Hometown." I'm from a little place in North Alabama. The buckle of the bell hangs in Lauderdale. Just across the bridge is a studio where we played Southern rock and roll. Well, maybe it's the water in my hometown, something in the river that helps us bring the house down. Maybe it's the whiskey, maybe it's sweet tea, maybe way my mama raised me. Oh, how sweet the sound. Maybe it's the water in my hometown. Water in my hometown. Hey! My pops was a deacon in our congregation. Mama prayed me to salvation. Sissy was a smart girl, all the boys liked. I just sang for all the girls to smile. I just sang for all the girls to smile. Smile, smile. Well, maybe it's the water in my hometown, something in the river that helps us bring the house down. Maybe it's the whiskey, maybe it's sweet tea, maybe it's the way my mama raised me. Oh, how sweet the sound. Maybe it's the water in my hometown. Water in my hometown. Oh, I'm still singing every chance I get. That old water hasn't left me yet. I remember just how far I've come. Won't forget the river that I'm from. Singing roll, 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 river, roll, 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 river, roll, 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 river, roll, 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 river, roll. Well, maybe it's the water in my hometown, something in the river that helps us bring the house down. Maybe it's the whiskey, maybe it's sweet tea, maybe it's the way my mama raised me. Oh, how sweet the sound. Well, maybe it's the water in my hometown, something in the river that helps us bring the house down. Maybe it's the whiskey, maybe it's sweet tea, maybe it's the way my mama raised me. Oh, how sweet the sound. Oh, how sweet the sound. Oh, how sweet the sound. Maybe it's the water in my hometown. Water in my hometown.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nothing like paying homage to where you're from, and boy, I hear a lot of Muscle Shoals in that song. That's fantastic, and man, great performance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So how does the performing in, like, you know, how does taking a song like that change as you perform it? I love to explore the difference, like how the studio changes a song and how performance changes the song, and that kind of process, how it goes.
Well, I mean, I was writing that song, and of course the way I kind of like honed it in or perfected it was getting out and playing it more. So I'm sure when I first started it, it was wordy. The melody was a little fast, was wordy. It's hard to find places to breathe, but when you play out and you learn the phrasing and stuff, it becomes easier to do, and you figure out how you want to do it and how it works the best and how it sounds the best. And when I recorded that, I was like, I want to get some people from Muscle Shoals to play on it. I didn't, like I typically ask my buddies from North Carolina, and I would get my buddy Justin Holder, which I said is the drummer from Fame. He would play on a lot of my stuff. So I knew I definitely wanted him to play drums on that track. And then he ended up getting a guy named Will McFarlane, who's a great guitarist, plays for Monty Raitt, Jackson Brown, the Pointer Sisters.
Not too shabby there.
Jamie, yeah, you're right. His son Jamie plays bass, and so Jamie played bass on it. And then they got their friend Billy Smart, who is Dwayne Allman reincarnated.
Speaking of some Muscle Shoals influence there, they spent a lot of time down there, didn't they?
Yep, Dwayne Allman got his start there. Dwayne Allman would camp out in a RV outside of Fame, asking them for a chance. Come on, give me a chance. Let me show you what I got.
What was the album he was on first? I got to hear. I heard that on the documentary. He played on an album with was it an R&B artist or something like that, and it was amazing to hear his early. That was it, Wilson Pickett. That's right.
Wilson Pickett. It it said that one night while they were drinking, Dwayne said, "We should cover Hey Jude." And Wilson Pickett said, "Yeah, but the Beatles did that." And he goes, "Exactly." And so they ended up covering Hey Jude, and they said that's when Southern rock and roll was born, when they created Hey Jude. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I mean, if you haven't seen the documentary Muscle Shoals, you've got to see it. It's awesome. It's such vital American music history. It's crazy. I mean, they call Muscle Shoals the hit recording capital of the world. I mean, above Nashville, above LA, above New York, like the hit recording capital of the world. So you got to go check out Muscle Shoals. I think it's maybe on YouTube or Amazon Prime or something. It's out there.
I saw it on
Look
Netflix back in the day, and it was like, I had no idea. I was just like, how did I not know that all these super famous stars would go down there and record and turn? It was just magic.
Right. And
the water of your hometown, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Something's in the water there. I mean, Aretha Franklin pretty much was a nobody, and they brought her to Muscle Shoals because they heard about these guys who've been recording on all the records and making hits. So they brought Aretha Franklin down to start recording, and they were asking where all the brothers were, and they were like, "Well, these are the guys that record, these 17 and 18-year-old little white rednecks." And she's like, "No way," And they ended up recording, "Never Have I Loved a Man the Way That I Love You." They made like that. They helped make Aretha who she was. They helped her discover who she was. And it's pretty amazing stuff, man. Pretty amazing stuff.
Music has the power to cross boundaries, cross borders. I love to hear that. As a musician myself, I just love to see how music can cross any boundary and every border and can heal a really challenged society.
It brings people together who would never, ever be in the same room together. It brings people together. It's pretty cool. It's really cool.
Well, brother, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I wish you every blessing
Absolutely.
as you continue your journey in the Lord, and as you minister to people and keep on creating great music like you're doing, and on both sides of that coin.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate you having me today. Okay, bud?
How can people find out more about your work, and how can they be in touch with you if they have questions?
Yeah, if you want to know more about my work, my music, you can go to eriksmallwood.com, ERIK Smallwood.com. You can actually check me out on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube, Twitter. For all you oldies, I'm on MySpace. I'm just kidding. I'm not on MySpace anymore. I was
going to say oldies like Facebook, right? I've got young kids.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, I'm on social media. I'm on the internet. I'm on the interwebs. I'm on Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music. You can stream my stuff. But yeah, if you find me from this broadcast, if you're listening to me and discover my music for the first time on this broadcast, shoot me a message and let me know so I can let Jason know that that people are paying attention.
Well, anytime you have something coming out, make sure you put it out on our Facebook page. We've been a growing community, and we're just starting to get more and more people watching, and we appreciate you spending the time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. Be blessed, sir.
Continue blessings, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that like bell, and you'll hear more about what's coming up. We've got a great roster of guests this week, including Metropolitan Opera soprano Amy Shormont-Obra and Tony Award nominee Broadway actress Christiane Knoll. So you'll want to check that out. Thank you so much, and remember, keep music alive.